feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it's sink or swim, only option is to win.
Hey everyone, welcome to the post-show wrap-up of the Shrink Tank podcast. I'm your host, Rich Jensen, along with my co-host, David Sims, and our special guest today, Brad Fugere of Flux Creative. Welcome, Brad. It was great to have you.
It's been awesome.
Every week on the post-show wrap-up, we like to bring you some of the highlights from the full podcast, which you can catch the entire thing. It's about 40 minutes at arkansas.shrimptankpodcast.com. We just had a great show. You'll want to learn a lot from Brad about basically social media marketing was one of the big things, and about the quality of the work he's doing
and
there.
The creative aspect of what he does too is on the videography stuff.
Towards the end of the podcast, Brad, you mentioned something called jab, 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 right hook. Tell our listeners a little about that.
So jab, 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 right hook is something, it's a book actually that Gary Vee wrote. And Gary Vee is an entrepreneur. He started VaynerMedia, which is a social media marketing company. And the premise of jab, 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 right hook is that when you're using social media, you need to be doing things called jabs, where you're basically providing value that's gaining attention within your audience. So these would be things where you're not asking for anything. You're not asking for a sale or anything. You're just like, if you're a realtor, it's like, here's the 5 best things to look for in a potential house, or here's the 5 worst things to look for in a house. Just adding value to your potential clients.
So then what's the right hook?
The right hook is when you ask for the sale.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason I had brought up jab, 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 right hook is that I think that I am kind of the right hook guy. That's what I tell my clients normally, is that within social media, because they're always asking me, how do you fit into social media? That's how I fit in. I'm the right hook guy. When it's time to ask for the sale, you want something that's going to properly represent your brand and properly target your audience so that you actually get the conversions you need within that right hook.
Well, I can sure see why you get conversions, because if you've never been on Brad's website, you can see some really awesome, creative, but really well done videos.
Yeah, first class.
It's interesting because you didn't start out really doing that kind of thing, right, David? You were talking about...
Yeah, on the podcast, you talked about rebranding yourself after about 4.5 years into the business. Tell our listeners about that.
Yeah, that's a quick pivot not a quick pivot, but I mean... You were pretty far into what you were doing beforehand.
Well, so really, initially I started Brad Fugere Media, which was just kind of, there wasn't a real niche to it. It was just everything. It was photography, it was video production, it was weddings, it was commercial. It was just, I was just trying to make some money and start a business. When I realized that I needed to start a niche business and I wanted to do more commercial stuff, that's when I, started Flux Creative.
Okay.
And I kind of killed Brad Fugere Media and made it into Brad Fugere Wedding Films, because my plan is in about 2 years to discontinue that as well and just have Flux Creative.
And share with our listeners kind of really what the core competency of Flux Creative would be.
Yeah, it's all about commercial video production. It's all about, if you want something from concept to delivery, if you have an idea, video marketing idea, and you're looking for somebody who can take that idea and make it better, make it target your audience better, that's really what I'm interested in doing.
Sort of like these shrimp tank videos, you could probably make them better.
Well,
it's been awesome.
It's really it's a narrative. It's telling the story. It has the people in the business and telling their story, isn't it? That's really your strength. That's what I see when I look at your videos. They're just first class, and they draw you in, and you just want to listen and watch and hear the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely think storytelling is one aspect of gaining, your potential clients' attention.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing on the podcast that was really good, you've had success, you've made some money, you've got people working for you, and we asked you about what was one piece of practical advice that you wish you had early on, and you had talked about the importance of a business mentor. Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when you get started, or at least for me, there's some pride aspect to that you don't need a mentor. You're just going to do it on your own. You're bootstrapping it, so to speak.
Figure it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it would be invaluable, in my opinion, to have had a business mentor to kind of say, hey, don't be cheap. Go get an accountant. You can afford it, and it will save you in the end. And I definitely could have used that advice.
Helped you manage that cash flow a little bit better, huh?
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, oh no, I got this big tax bill that I didn't know about.
Especially what we find a lot with young entrepreneurs just starting out is they don't understand that extra 7.5% that comes in on the self-employment tax when you don't have an employer paying it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
well, it was really a great podcast. I'm sure you'll want to listen to the entire thing. Don't forget you can do that by going to arkansas.shrimptankpodcast.com. You can always subscribe to it on iTunes. And as always, you're probably watching this on YouTube. You can check all of our post-show wrap-up videos on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. But Brad, before we wrap this up, if someone wanted to get a hold of Flux Creative, talk to you, have a concept, have an idea, or just don't even know where to start, what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can get a hold of me by email, bradfugere@me.com. You can go check out my website at fluxcreative.co.
Not com, right.
And
Co.
Fugere is Fugere.
Right, it's Italian, right?
Yeah. And also social media, some form of Flux Creative, _co or something like that.
Okay.
They're all different,
Great.
unfortunately. But,
All right.
yeah.
Well, I encourage you to go ahead and contact Brad if you have any questions about what you listen to or what you see right now. In the meantime, have a great week, and remember, to become a shark, we all start out as shrimp.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank.